Welcome back to our channel, World Coins History. As you knew that old is gold, but these rare Jefferson nickel that are most valuable than you think, don't spend one of them. You're lucky if you have one of these, so please watch complete video and find your treasure. Let's start this. Top 1. Today, we're diving into the world of one of the most intriguing and valuable coins you might not expect, a coin that could change your perception of American currency forever. You've probably seen it before, and it might be sitting in your collection right now, but the 1943 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark on its reverse is something truly special. So, if you're a passionate coin lover or just a curious collector, stick with us as we explore why this little coin might just be worth far more than its 5-cent face value. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's so special about a coin that's only worth 5 cents? Well, this is where things get interesting. The 1943 Jefferson nickel is part of the U.S. Mint's long history, but it's a coin that's far more unique than most of its counterparts. Let's take a closer look at this fascinating piece of history and see why it stands out from the rest of the pack. To understand the significance of the 1943 Jefferson nickel, we need to first consider the historical backdrop of the time. In 1943, the United States was deeply involved in World War II. The country was focused on war efforts, and metal resources were scarce. In fact, during this time, many of the coins we are familiar with today were made from alternative materials due to the war's demands on copper and other metals. The nickel, for instance, was produced with a combination of copper, nickel, and silver, an alloy that made it stand out as part of the wartime effort. But what makes the 1943 Jefferson nickel particularly exciting to collectors is not just its history, but its rarity. This coin is part of the standard mintage for the year, but it carries an interesting anomaly: the presence of the P mint mark. While most Jefferson nickels of this year were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, the 1943 P mint mark, which is found on the reverse of the coin, is what sets this piece apart. Here's the catch: while most coins from that year carried no mint mark, or were marked with D or S to denote their minting location, the P mint mark on a 1943 Jefferson nickel is extraordinarily rare. In fact, the presence of a P mint mark on this coin is actually a minting error. The Philadelphia Mint, known for producing coins without a mint mark during that period, inadvertently struck some of the 1943 Jefferson nickels with this mint mark. This was a significant mistake, as the P mint mark was not supposed to appear on nickels at all in 1943. As a result, a few of these coins were released into circulation, and over time, they became highly sought after by collectors. The rarity of the 1943 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is what gives it its substantial value today. There's a limited number of these coins, and the vast majority of them have been lost to time, circulation, or wear and tear. If you happen to come across one of these gems, you're not just looking at a nickel, you're holding a rare piece of U.S. coinage history, but the value doesn't stop at just rarity. The condition of the coin plays a huge role in determining its price. Like most rare coins, the better the condition, the more valuable it is. Coins that are well preserved and show minimal signs of wear are in high demand among collectors, and the 1943 Jefferson nickel is no exception. If you're lucky enough to find one in uncirculated or near perfect condition, you're holding something that could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Now, let's talk about the specifics. As with any valuable coin, collectors are always on the lookout for those rare specimens that stand out, whether due to minting errors, design variations, or simply their exceptional quality. The 1943 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is no exception. Coins with this error, especially those in pristine condition, can fetch astronomical prices. If you were to find one in good condition, you might think it's just a nice piece for your collection. But wait, this coin has the potential to be worth significantly more, especially if it has been well preserved over the years. And here's the best part: if you have one of these rare 1943 Jefferson nickels with the P mint mark, you could be holding a coin that's worth an impressive $98,000. That's right, $98,000 for a single 5-cent coin. It's incredible to think that a coin that was once part of everyday transactions could be worth such an enormous amount today. So, if you happen to stumble upon one of these rare coins in your collection or come across it in your pocket change, make sure to inspect it closely. for all the coin collectors and history buffs out there, this is the kind of coin that makes the hobby so thrilling. The discovery of something rare, something with such a rich history, can be both exciting and rewarding. If you're just starting your coin collection, keep your eyes peeled for this one. It might just be the jackpot you've been waiting for. Top 2, we're about to explore a classic American coin that could be sitting in your collection or even hidden in your change jar right now, the 1964 Jefferson Nickel. This coin, often passed over and overlooked by many, has a fascinating backstory and, believe it or not, could be worth far more than just 5 cents. If you're a coin lover, a history buff, or just someone who appreciates the value of rare currency, you're going to want to hear about this one. So, let's dive right in. The 1964 Jefferson Nickel was minted as part of the U.S. Mint's regular production of 5-cent coins. At first glance, it seems like just another piece of U.S. currency from the 1960s, nothing particularly extraordinary. But here's where things get interesting. This coin carries with it a combination of factors that make it both unique and incredibly valuable to the right collector. To understand why the 1964 Jefferson Nickel holds such potential value, we need to go back in time to 1964. This was a pivotal year in American history. The country was experiencing a period of significant change, marked by social upheaval and the growing civil rights movement. It was also a time when the U.S. Mint was still churning out coins using a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel, which gave these coins their distinctive appearance and durability. While the design of the 1964 Jefferson Nickel wasn't radically different from previous years, it was notable for something more subtle, a slight but significant error in the minting process. This error, though not immediately obvious, is what truly sets the 1964 Jefferson Nickel apart from its counterparts and makes it a coveted item among coin collectors today. What makes this coin so rare is its specific minting mistake, which was a slight issue in the alignment during the coin striking process. This resulted in some of the 1964 Jefferson Nickels being minted with a misalignment in the obverse and reverse sides. Essentially, the faces of these coins weren't perfectly centered, which gives them a unique, off-center look. You may be wondering, what makes a slight misalignment so special? Well, that small error makes these coins extremely rare, as only a handful of them were affected by this mistake. The majority of 1964 Jefferson Nickels were minted correctly, but the misaligned ones, those with noticeable off-center designs, are much harder to come by. And in the world of coin collecting, rarity equals value, but it doesn't stop there. The condition of the coin is just as important. A coin that's been kept in excellent condition can command a premium price, and this is especially true for coins with minting errors. Coins from 1964 that are in near-perfect or uncirculated condition are highly prized, as they retain their original luster and sharp detail, making them even more valuable. The combination of the minting error and pristine condition is what really makes this coin a potential goldmine for collectors. If you're lucky enough to find a 1964 Jefferson Nickel with a minting error, and even luckier if it's in excellent condition, you could be holding something worth a small fortune. These coins are prized not only because of their rarity, but also because of the story they tell about the U.S. Mint's production during a pivotal time in American history. Now, let's talk about the potential value of this coin. When you combine its rarity, historical significance, and unique errors, you begin to see why this coin has been fetching impressive prices at auctions and private sales. While most 1964 Jefferson Nickels are worth only a few cents or a couple of dollars at most, the misaligned error coins have been known to fetch much higher prices. In fact, depending on the condition, a 1964 Jefferson Nickel with a minting error could be worth as much as $85,000, yes, that's right, $85,000 for a single 5-cent coin. Isn't it incredible to think that a simple, everyday coin from the 1960s could hold that kind of value today? It just goes to show how important it is for collectors to know what to look for and understand the nuances of coin collecting. A small error, a slight misalignment, and the preservation of a coin can make all the difference when it comes to its value in the market. So, if you happen to come across a 1964 Jefferson Nickel in your collection or in your pocket change, take a closer look. You might just be holding a rare and valuable treasure that could change your life. And if you find one in uncirculated or excellent condition with that minting error, consider yourself lucky. You could have a genuine piece of numismatic history on your hands. Coin collecting is a fascinating hobby, and it's always thrilling to discover hidden gems like the 1964 Jefferson nickel. Whether you're a seasoned collector or just getting started, remember that sometimes, the most valuable coins aren't the ones you expect. It's the ones with a story, a rare minting error, or a unique design that truly capture the imagination and can bring in a significant return. Top 3. We're diving into an iconic piece of American currency that you might have overlooked, the 1975 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, this may seem like just another regular 5-cent coin from the 1970s. But trust me, there's much more to this nickel than meets the eye, and if you're a coin collector or history lover, you're going to want to hear all about it. You see, most people are familiar with the classic Jefferson nickel, but the 1975 version stands out for a few reasons, and it's not just about its age. The 1975 Jefferson nickel, like many coins produced during the mid-20th century, was minted with an eye-catching design and some interesting characteristics that might have flown under the radar for most collectors. But for those in the know, it's a piece of history, and a potentially very valuable one at that. To start, let's talk about the design of this coin. The obverse side features Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States, who has been depicted on the nickel since 1938. His portrait is instantly recognizable, with the famous profile of the statesman etched in the coin's surface. The reverse side features Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate, which has also been a feature of the coin since its introduction. These elements make the 1975 Jefferson nickel a familiar sight, and it's likely that you've come across one before in your pocket change. But just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's not worth paying attention to. Now, the interesting part about the 1975 Jefferson nickel isn't necessarily in the design but in the way it was produced. The United States Mint, in its infinite effort to keep up with the demands of coin circulation, was pumping out millions of nickels in the 1970s, but the 1975 Jefferson nickel stands out because of a series of unique factors. While the Mint produced a large number of these coins, some specific batches of 1975 Jefferson nickels ended up with significant errors during the minting process. These mistakes, specifically, issues with the die used to strike the coins, created some rare and sought-after versions of the 1975 Jefferson nickel. The most notable error associated with the 1975 Jefferson nickel is a die crack error. During the production of the coin, the dies used to stamp the design onto the blank metal planchet sometimes cracked, causing small lines to appear on the coin. These cracks are usually barely noticeable, but for the experienced collector, they can make all the difference. Coins with noticeable die cracks or other minting errors tend to attract a lot of attention, as they are seen as unique and historically significant mistakes in the production process. The rarity of such errors, combined with the fact that these coins were often circulated and worn down, makes finding a high-quality example of a 1975 Jefferson nickel particularly exciting. But let's take this a step further. What makes the 1975 Jefferson nickel so truly valuable? While the majority of the 1975 nickels have seen years of circulation and wear, a small percentage of these coins have managed to escape heavy use and remain in excellent condition. And these well-preserved nickels, particularly those with minting errors, are extremely desirable to collectors. It's not just about the design or the historical significance, it's the rarity of the coin in mint condition, with a clear and noticeable error that makes it special. Here's where things get even more exciting. If you're one of the lucky few who happen to own a 1975 Jefferson nickel with one of these minting errors, especially one in near-perfect condition, you could be sitting on a real treasure. In fact, the value of a 1975 Jefferson nickel with minting errors, depending on its grade and condition, could be worth significantly more than you might expect. A coin that's been well preserved and features those telltale signs of a minting mistake could be worth a staggering $80,000, that's right, $80,000 for a single 5-cent coin. It's hard to believe that something as seemingly ordinary as a nickel from 1975 could hold such an incredible value. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes, it's the smallest details, the rarest mistakes, and the best preserved examples that make all the difference in the world. So, what does this mean for you as a collector or someone just getting started in the hobby? It means you should be paying closer attention to those old coins lying around in your collection, or maybe even in your spare change. That seemingly unremarkable 1975 Jefferson nickel could be hiding a valuable secret. Whether it's a rare die crack, an off-center strike, or another minting error, these coins are waiting to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors like you. Coin collecting is all about patience, knowledge, and a little bit of luck. The 1975 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of how a seemingly common coin can turn into something incredibly valuable when the right conditions align. So, if you've got one of these coins in your possession, don't just toss it aside, take a closer look. It could be the key to unlocking a significant payday. Top 4, we're diving into a classic American coin that might be lurking in your collection or tucked away in your pocket change right now, the 1985 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, you might think this is just another typical 5-cent coin from the 1980s, but there's a lot more to this coin than meets the eye. If you're a coin collector or just someone who loves discovering hidden treasures, you're going to want to stick around as we explore what makes the 1985 Jefferson nickel so special and why it could be worth far more than its face value. Now, let's take a step back and think about the time this coin was minted. The 1980s were a transformative decade for the United States, full of economic changes, political shifts, and technological advances. The 1985 Jefferson nickel is part of the larger series of nickels minted during this time, and it carries with it a lot of historical significance. But the real intrigue doesn't come from the coin's history alone, it comes from a combination of rare factors that can make certain 1985 Jefferson nickels highly valuable to collectors. First, let's take a look at the design. As with most Jefferson nickels, the obverse features the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third President of the United States. His profile, with the signature hairstyle and stern expression, is a staple of U.S. coinage. On the reverse, we see Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate, depicted in great detail. These elements have remained largely unchanged since the Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938. But what makes the 1985 version interesting isn't just its design, it's the subtle factors at play behind the scenes. The 1985 Jefferson nickel, like many other coins of its era, was produced in large numbers by the U.S. Mint, so you'd think they'd be pretty easy to find. However, there's one thing that sets certain 1985 Jefferson nickels apart from the rest: minting errors. As with any large-scale coin production, occasional mistakes can happen during the minting process. These errors can make a coin incredibly rare, and in the case of the 1985 Jefferson nickel, some of these errors have turned out to be highly valuable. One of the most significant types of errors found in the 1985 Jefferson nickel is a double die error. This happens when the die used to strike the design onto the coin malfunctions and strikes the coin twice, causing the details to appear doubled. These errors are highly prized because they create a unique version of the coin that's different from the rest. Collectors love these mistakes because they're a rare glimpse into the imperfections of coin production, and they can really make a coin stand out from the crowd. Finding a 1985 Jefferson nickel with a double die error is an exciting discovery and can add a substantial amount of value to the coin, but it's not just the double die error that makes the 1985 Jefferson nickel special. Another error you might come across is the misaligned die. This occurs when the coin is not properly aligned during the striking process, which can cause part of the design to be cut off or placed in the wrong spot. Misaligned die coins are another favorite among collectors because they're unusual and signify a flaw that can make the coin more interesting and valuable. Whether it's a double die or a misaligned die, these minting errors can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into something truly special. Of course, the condition of the coin plays a huge role in its value. While many 1985 Jefferson nickels have circulated and seen their fair share of wear and tear, a coin that has been well preserved and kept in mint condition will always be worth more. If you happen to have a 1985 Jefferson nickel in near-perfect condition, or one that's been preserved as a collector's item, it could be worth much more than you think. And when you combine the rarity of minting errors with the condition of the coin, you're looking at a potentially valuable piece of U.S. currency. So, you're probably wondering, just how much can the 1985 Jefferson nickel with these rare errors be worth? Well, here's where things get exciting. Because of their rarity, historical significance, and unique errors, certain 1985 Jefferson nickels have been known to fetch impressive prices. If you find one with a double die error or a misaligned die and it's in top-notch condition, you could be sitting on a coin worth a small fortune. The value of these coins can reach as high as $74,000, yes, you heard that right, $74,000 for a single 1985 Jefferson nickel. It's hard to believe that a 5-cent coin could be worth that much, but it just goes to show how valuable these rare and unique pieces of history can be. Whether you're an experienced collector or just getting started in the hobby, it's essential to pay attention to the little details, because they can make all the difference when it comes to finding coins that are worth far more than their face value. So, what should you do next? If you're looking through your coin collection or your pocket change, be sure to keep an eye out for any 1985 Jefferson nickels with minting errors. These coins could be worth far more than you realize, and finding one could be your ticket to a major coin collection upgrade. Whether it's the double die, misaligned die, or simply a coin in exceptional condition, the 1985 Jefferson nickel is one of those hidden treasures that every collector should know about. Top 5, we're talking about a coin that might not catch your eye at first glance, but when you dig a little deeper, it could reveal itself as a hidden gem, the 1987 Jefferson nickel. That's right, a simple 5-cent coin from the 1980s might be worth a lot more than you'd think, especially if you're lucky enough to find one with a special characteristic. So, if you're a collector, a history buff, or just someone who's fascinated by the world of rare coins, stay tuned, because this coin could be worth a small fortune. At first glance, the 1987 Jefferson nickel might seem like just another routine issue from the US Mint, and you wouldn't be alone in thinking that. The design hasn't changed in decades, Thomas Jefferson's familiar portrait on the front and Monticello, his Virginia estate, on the back. These features have been on the Jefferson nickel for years, making it a beloved and easily recognizable part of American currency. However, there's much more to this coin than meets the eye, especially when it comes to its rarity and potential for mistakes. In the world of coin collecting, even the smallest minting errors can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into something extraordinary, and that's where the 1987 Jefferson nickel comes into play. While the majority of the 1987 nickels were produced with no notable issues, there are a few that carry rare minting errors that have made them highly sought after by collectors. And that's exactly what makes these coins so interesting. They're not just everyday nickels, they're pieces of history, marked by the quirks of coin production. So, what kind of errors are we talking about? One of the most exciting and rare errors to look out for in the 1987 Jefferson nickel is the double die error. This occurs when the die used to strike the design on the coin shifts slightly during the minting process, causing the image to appear twice, hence the term double die. The result is a coin with double details, particularly visible in the date or the text, and these coins are extremely popular among collectors because they're so unique. Double die coins are considered a numismatic treasure because they're one of a kind, showcasing an imperfection in the minting process that makes them stand out, but that's not all. Another potential error to look for is a misaligned die. This happens when the die used to strike the coin doesn't line up correctly with the blank coin, leading to a design that's off-center or unevenly struck. Coins with this type of error have a distinctive look, and while they're rare, they're also highly coveted by collectors who appreciate the subtle mistakes that make these coins different from the rest. What makes the 1987 Jefferson nickel even more fascinating is that these errors weren't widespread. They occurred in very limited quantities, making them even more valuable. Most of the coins were minted correctly, which means that finding a 1987 nickel with one of these errors is like striking gold. But the rarity of the coin is only part of what makes it valuable. The condition of the coin also plays a huge role in determining its worth. Coins that have been well preserved, free from wear and tear, and in near-perfect condition are far more valuable than those that have been heavily circulated. The beauty of coin collecting is that even a seemingly common coin from the 1980s can turn out to be worth something extraordinary when you look at the details. A 1987 Jefferson nickel that has a minting error or is in exceptional condition can be a true find, one that could make any collector's heart race. And now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for. Just how much could these rare 1987 nickels be worth? if you happen to stumble upon a 1987 Jefferson nickel that's in mint condition or has one of these rare minting errors, you could be sitting on a small fortune. Depending on the type and severity of the error, and the overall quality of the coin, a 1987 Jefferson nickel could be worth as much as $72,000, yes, you read that right, $72,000. For a 5-cent coin. It's hard to believe that something as simple as a nickel, often overlooked and tossed around in our pockets, could be worth so much. But that's the magic of rare coin collecting. With a keen eye for detail and a bit of luck, you could find a coin that holds significant value and tells a unique story of its production. So, whether you're just starting your collection or you've been a seasoned collector for years, remember to always look closely at the coins in your collection, and especially the ones that might seem ordinary. The 1987 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example of how rarity, minting errors, and well-preserved coins can turn something as humble as a 5-cent piece into a valuable collector's item. If you have a 1987 Jefferson nickel, don't just toss it aside or forget about it, take a closer look. You could have a rare treasure in your hands. And if you're lucky enough to find one of these error coins in mint condition, you could be looking at a coin that's worth far more than its face value. Top 6, we're diving into one of the most intriguing finds in American pocket change, the 1979 Jefferson nickel. You've probably seen hundreds of these over the years, and you might even have one sitting in a coin jar right now. But what if I told you that this humble 5-cent coin could be hiding a rare secret? One so rare, so valuable, that it could be worth thousands, yes, thousands, of dollars today. Stick with me, because this video could change the way you look at your spare change forever. Let's start with the basics. The 1979 Jefferson nickel is part of a coin series that's been a staple of American currency since 1938. With Thomas Jefferson's distinguished profile on the obverse and his famous home, Monticello, featured on the reverse, this nickel is a symbol of American history and design. But while the design remained consistent for decades, the true story of the 1979 Jefferson nickel lies not just in its looks, but in its flaws. That's right. In the world of coin collecting, perfection isn't always what you're looking for. Sometimes, the most valuable coins are the ones that have something a little off. And that's exactly what makes certain 1979 nickels so incredibly special. Let's talk about mint errors. During the coin production process, millions of coins are struck every year. And with such large volumes, even the most carefully controlled systems can make mistakes. In 1979, the U.S. Mint produced a high number of Jefferson nickels, but not all of them came out the way they were supposed to. Some had misaligned dies, which resulted in off-center strikes. Others had double dies, where the engraving was struck twice by accident, causing a ghostly doubling of numbers or letters on the coin. These kinds of errors might seem minor at first glance, but to a serious collector, they are gold. A double die, for example, might cause the year 1979 or the word liberty to appear twice, slightly offset from itself. And if the error is clear and bold, it can make the coin significantly more desirable. The same goes for coins that are off-center, have clipped planchets, or feature other striking abnormalities. The more dramatic and rare the error, the higher the value. But here's the twist: not all 1979 Jefferson nickels are created equal. What truly sets the valuable ones apart is condition. If a coin has an error and is in excellent, uncirculated condition, it becomes a prime target for collectors and auction houses. These coins are graded on a scale, with MS, mint state, coins being at the top of the scale. A 1979 Jefferson nickel with a rare error, graded MS 65 or higher, can command astonishing prices in today's coin market. What's more, collectors are especially interested in coins from this era because they mark the tail end of the vintage nickel period before modern updates and changes started rolling in during the 2000s. So, a 1979 era nickel, preserved in near-perfect condition, becomes not just a mistake, but a moment in time, a frozen piece of minting history. And let's not forget about varieties. While most 1979 nickels were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, those from the San Francisco Mint, with the S Mint mark, were typically proof coins, high-quality strikes made specifically for collectors. Sometimes, a coin with a proof finish ends up in circulation by mistake. If you happen to find a 1979 proof Jefferson nickel where it shouldn't be, especially one with a striking error, you're in for an even bigger surprise. Now, here comes the exciting part you've been waiting for. Among all the 1979 Jefferson nickels ever struck, there are a handful out there that tick every box: rare mint error, high-grade condition, and collector appeal. And those particular coins? They've fetched jaw-dropping prices at auctions and private sales. So, if you're lucky enough to find one, you may just be holding a piece of rare American history that's worth a fortune. How much, you ask? A rare 1979 Jefferson nickel with the right error and pristine condition has been valued at an astonishing $87,000. Yes, you heard that right, $87,000 for a 5-cent coin. It sounds unbelievable, but it's real. That's why collectors all over the world are constantly checking their collections, scouring flea markets, estate sales, and even their piggy banks in hopes of finding one of these incredible rarities. So, what should you do next? Simple: go through your coins. Pull out any 1979 Jefferson nickels you can find and look at them under good lighting. Check the year and lettering for doubling, examine the edges for clipping, and look for any off-center details. And if you spot something unusual, it's worth having it appraised by a reputable coin dealer or submitting it for grading through a professional service. Top 7, and this last video is going to take you on an exciting ride into the world of hidden gems, right from the heart of American pocket change. We're spotlighting a coin that might look ordinary at first, but don't be fooled, the 1974 Jefferson nickel could be hiding a jaw-dropping secret. You might have seen this coin 100 times and never thought twice about it, but for the few lucky enough to find a rare version, it could be worth a fortune. So make sure you watch this video all the way to the end, because we're going to explore the fascinating history, rare errors, and collector buzz around this coin, one that could transform your small change into a small treasure. Let's start with the basics. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American currency since 1938. Featuring the third U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson, on the obverse, and his iconic home, Monticello, on the reverse, this coin has long held its place in pockets and piggy banks across the nation. The 1974 edition doesn't look much different from other years, but as you'll soon learn, it's the little things that can make the biggest difference. You see, 1974 was a year when the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of nickels. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were running at full speed, turning out coins for nationwide circulation. But with high production comes a higher chance of error. And that's where things get interesting. Not all 1974 Jefferson nickels are created equal. While most were struck correctly and spent decades bouncing from one pocket to another, a very small number were minted with errors, mistakes that happened during the striking process. These errors, which might seem like imperfections to the untrained eye, are what collectors call treasure point. One of the most valuable types of errors to look out for is the double die error. This happens when the die used to stamp the coin design shifts slightly between strikes, causing a doubling effect on the coin's details. Imagine the word Liberty or the date 1974 appearing slightly doubled. That's not damage or wear, that's a rare minting flaw. And collectors love it. Another major error to keep your eyes peeled for is the off-center strike. This occurs when the coin blank isn't aligned properly in the press. Instead of a centered, even design, you get a coin with part of the image pushed off to one side. The more dramatic the misalignment, the more collectible and valuable it becomes, but that's not all. Some 1974 Jefferson nickels have been found with clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin's edge is missing because the metal blank was improperly cut before striking. Others feature die cracks, which are raised lines on the coin's surface caused by fractures in the die used to make the coin. While subtle, these flaws are gold to collectors. Now here's the kicker: these errors alone can make a coin special. But if the coin is also in uncirculated or mint condition, that's when things get really exciting. When a 1974 Jefferson nickel with one of these rare errors is preserved perfectly, without scratches, dulling, or signs of circulation, it can command massive attention from collectors and auction houses alike. These rare combinations of condition and error don't show up often. Most of the 1974 nickels out there have been through decades of handling, vending machines, and loose change trays. But if you happen to come across one that's in sharp condition and carries a genuine minting flaw, you're looking at something far more than 5 cents. Coin collecting isn't just about old money, it's about history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. Every error coin tells a story of a moment when the mint's machines hiccuped, leaving behind a unique, one-of-a-kind piece of currency that survived against the odds. And that's why collectors are so passionate about pieces like the 1974 Jefferson nickel. It's not just the coin, it's the hunt, the rarity, and the value wrapped up in a small metal disc. So the big question is, what's one of these coins really worth? If you happen to find a 1974 Jefferson nickel with a rare minting error, preserved in pristine condition, experts and collectors agree that it could be worth a life-changing $89,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 5-cent coin, with the right characteristics, could bring in $89,000. That's the power of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. It's a world where tiny differences turn everyday objects into priceless treasures. So don't ignore that old jar of change on your shelf. Don't pass up the chance to look a little closer at that nickel in your wallet. That one coin you've never noticed before could be the one collectors dream about. Thanks for joining us today for this incredible look at the 1974 Jefferson nickel. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another chance to uncover hidden treasure. Until next time, keep hunting, keep learning, and who knows? The next valuable coin might be in your hand right now.